Joining us today for a sit-down interview is our guest Kitnel. This is going to be kind of a linear standard form interview. I'm just going to ask a bunch of questions about your experiences, focusing on, relating to trans issues specifically, because I think it's important for trans people to get our stories out there and have them heard. First of all, welcome. It's good to have you.
Great for having.
Yeah, and I apologize for my voice to the listeners later on. I've been sick for over a week. I am definitely getting better, but I'm still on the tail end of it, which is why I'm going to probably sound under the weather. But hopefully, um, this will be fine anyway. Um, so I guess I just want to start by asking you, um, what made you decide uh, to agree to an interview? Like, why do you think it's important for trans people to tell our stories right now?
Well, I think especially right now, super important. We're a heavily attacked minority, especially for how few of us there really are. Uh, the per capita of the country, the world. Um, but we're also demonized quite frequently. Even though, like for the most part, most of us are normal ass people, just like everyone else. I think it's important to get our stories out there to human.
Right. I feel the same way. I feel a lot of times when people are talking about trans people, it does not include trans people in the conversation. Like we are often excluded when people are talking about us. You see it on podcast, especially in right wing spaces. But unfortunately, I notice like a lot of people that are on ostensibly that would be like the left, especially like politicians, liberals, like Gavin Newsom. I've heard him talk several times about trans people with podcasters like Ben Shapiro, but I have not seen Newsom sit down with actual trans people to hear from us. And one of the issues that I find most frustrating, and especially in online spaces, is I hear the term like trans rights activist get thrown around a lot, or they'll call us TRAs. And essentially, they'll label anyone who is for trans rights a trans rights activist. For me, I always thought, activism had specific, it meant specific things. Like an activist is somebody who, goes out and protests for something. There's someone who goes and has like litigation that they might file, against corporations that are being discriminatory. They participate in organizations that essentially are focus groups to, help certain communities. That's what I always imagined as an activist. Uh, and I've heard people use a similar label to describe, you as well. Would you identify with the label as being like a trans activist, or do you find that's just projected on you?
I find that being labeled a trans rights activist instead of I mean in one way it fits, and another way it's like I'm just a person advocating civil rights for everybody, you know, um, trans people or not, so it's like it's a little weird, I guess, nitty gritty. Like if you really want to throw that label on me, fine, but I don't really, you know, I don't really apply it to myself about
Right.
rights.
It's like just existing and advocating for the right of people like us to exist is, you know, civil rights, trans rights activist to these people that would use it kind of pejoratively. I find the label myself. If people want to call me a trans rights activist, I'm like, well, I guess in some sense that's what I am doing. I am advocating for trans rights, and this is kind of part of that greater project. But at the same time, it's for equality for everyone. I just want the same rights for people like us as we see for like cis people or other people in society. I wouldn't look at someone who says that they think women should be equal to other people as like a women's rights activist. I would just look at them, you might label them a feminist, like sure, but I wouldn't say like they're an activist just for having that belief. Sorry, I had to cough for a second there. But
Oh no, you're good.
let's um let's get into the interview. So I just want to ask you a little bit like about yourself. And like some of these questions, if they are too personal or you don't you you know that you don't want to elaborate on it, feel free to pass. You can just say I don't want to talk about it or pass, and we'll just ask a different question. Otherwise, I'm going to try to go like from like early in your life, kind of catching up until now to get kind of a background for you. But I do have a question though. You have a VTube avatar. Is there is there a reason why you would prefer to use like a VTube avatars? Like, as does is that in any way related to like an experience of being a trans person kind of on the internet?
Um, for me, it's not really. There's a couple different things for it. I just think it's fun and cool, and the technology is just better and better every. So, obviously, you can see with my particular avatar, like the eyes aren't working properly quite yet and stuff. So I'm still working on it. But I just find the technology fun and interesting. And then past that, it's also just to help protect my anonymity. If you really want to find what I really look like, you can find it. But I just think it's fun mostly.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense as far as like the anonymity portion of it. Just like Zoe is a moniker for me. It's not my real name, and I'm assuming that like Kitnel is not your real name either. Like that's a you're using a handle, correct?
Yeah, wouldn't it be fun if I made it my real name?
Yeah, I mean, hey, you could, you know. I almost made Zoe my real name. I when I went to file court documents for my chosen name, I was like, you know, Zoe was, I mean, so close right there. But I started thinking like, do I really want to make it easier for people to like find me online? Because um, for me, safety is always a concern as a trans person, and I would assume it's the same for you.
Yeah. So for me, it's like safety is utmost important for anyone. People, we're in America. We want to, you know, maintain our anonymity most of the time. Except for circumstances, real life at your work, whatever. But especially online, people can
Yeah,
act like super crazy. So
Yeah, they can be pretty frightening, and you know, I've gotten people commenting on my videos before, kind of like trying to like intimidate me or threaten me. But I guess let's start off with what would be some of your earliest like trans experiences? Would you say, or experiences with like gender non-congruence?
yeah. So I guess to start things off, my first experience of I knew something was at least different, if maybe not a little weird for the time or whatever. Was when I was I think it was either kindergarten or I don't remember exactly, but but I remember looking at the girls um in the in the classes that I was in and just being like, why am I not allowed to wear that cute skirt or those cute shoes or stuff like that. I've also never been like that person at that young of an age who shied away from playing with whatever toys I wanted rather than being hyper focused on traditional boy things. Like I liked playing with dolls. Um, I was always interested in makeup, but I never had myself do that until way later. But I was also not, especially younger, not girlish either. Like I was still kind of like what you'd call a tomboy, like sports acting.
Did you
Um, mhm.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. It's fine.
I was going to ask, did you, with those initial experiences, how were they like? How was that, I guess, received by your peers or your family? Did you find you had a lot of support early on, or was do you think there was more kind of ambivalence? Was there pushback to any of that?
So in terms of so the rest of my family was, I was just their sibling slash child or whatever. Especially my mother was like very supportive. Like I remember doing ballet lessons with my sister because I saw her doing it and I was like, "Hey mom, can you sign me up for that?" My sister and they let me. And my sister did gymnastics, and I was like, "Oh, that looks," and that's, like, in my jam, right? Because tomboyish and being active and stuff, so I was like, "Hey," but I wanted to join, like, the girls crowd, and, uh, you know did I say boys or girls? I don't even remember. But I wanted to join the, like, girls lesson, right? 'Cause they were doing more interesting things than I was. Um, and so, my mom talked to the teacher and stuff and signed me up, and they let me do it. So, it wasn't even like I was, like, invading their space or whatever. I was just, like, interested in the activity itself, right?
Yeah. I
Um,
the Sorry,
oh,
your audio is clipping just a little bit. Is there
oh,
any
is
way
it?
to like move the mic a
Yeah,
little bit closer?
yeah, the mic is pretty the mic is actually my webcam for this, but, let me,
It's all right. It's just
is
the audio is
is that
clipping.
better?
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
think
guess, okay, yeah,
I think it's
we'll find
sounding
out here in
better.
a minute, I guess. Yeah, I just turned the threshold down. Michaela is behind me, so just trying to cut out as much background noise as possible. That's all I was trying to do. So,
Yeah, no, it
but
makes
I've
sense.
also but
I
I've
just
also
wanted
asked her to be
to.
quiet. So,
Oh no. Well, hopefully, it's not too sensitive. But
yeah, it should be fine.
so
If it gets too bad, I'll readjust it. So,
yeah, no, it sounds a lot better now. It's not clipping as much. Before it was like kind of it sounded like it was clipping off the end of some of the sentences that you were saying. I just
oh
wanted
yeah,
to
that
make
makes
sure
sense.
that
'Cause the way I enunciate tends to like my sentences like drop off in tone, typically at the end of my sentences. So that makes sense.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everyone gets to hear what you have to say, and that we're not missing uh, some of it. So you were saying that essentially when you were growing up, you were allowed to do like ballet, and then you wanted to
Mhm.
do that with your sister, and you were allowed to. Let's go toward like moving a little bit older, like into like older teens. What were some of
Okay.
your experiences during that time? I'm asking because there's a narrative that trans people are kind of pushed to be trans. I'm sure you've like heard this before. That's not my experience at all. I have my own story regarding this. But it just sounds like your mom was just trying to support her child and just let you kind of explore the things that you wanted to explore.
Yeah, for the most part. Oh, can I add one thing really quickly that I think we kind of glossed over real fast?
Yeah, you can elaborate on anything you would like. The interview is here for you.
Oh, I just want to make sure that people know my identity because we didn't really flesh that out necessarily. Hi, I'm Kitnel. I go by she, her, they, and Faye. That's it. That's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And I'm Zoe. I'm
Yeah.
she, they. I guess I should have said that at the beginning. But
No, we're good. We got it taken care of now. So.
right, gotta hammer down the details. But I would say so getting a little bit older, did you have would you say like any like what are some of the other experiences that you remember when you were saying that that you could tell that the way you were experiencing things was different than like say your peers and stuff. I'm guessing um I'll ask you did you have any experiences with like gender affirming care like early on, like did you socially transition early on like in your like going into your teens, did you have access to puberty blockers, HRT, that type of thing?
Yeah. So we're talking like middle school into high school ages. Um, so I became increasingly aware of like my internal feelings about this. Like my the idea that I wanted to like wear like more like girly clothing most of the time, or do my hair a certain way. I traditionally grew out my hair like my entire life because I liked having longer hair. I just thought it looked better. But when we're talking about my social life in school and stuff, it became increasingly difficult because, as we know, kids can be very cruel. I didn't have any access to medical care because I didn't even know what was going on, and I became increasingly terrified to express it to my parents. because with the sort of media things that were going on in terms of like movies, news, stuff like that. Um, Sorry, needed to take a second there. Just the media and the news were very like hostile, especially in the 90s, 2000s, towards any gender nonconformance. I mean, even like tomboys or butch women were traditionally like attacked or whatever
Yeah, and you
for
were
like not being ladylike enough,
yeah, you were saying that kids can be mean, and I definitely like agree. Um there's like I want to just ask directly because it seems like there's an implication there. Did you were you bullied? Did you face like pressure from your peers to stop expressing yourself in a way that would be gender nonconforming? You mentioned growing your hair out. Do you think that, like, would you describe your experiences as having been kind of bullied or teased at all in school?
Oh, yes, but, like, especially when we get into, like, middle school or, high school especially, that was probably where it was the worst, but, like, I faced, pushback from teachers, for presenting myself in certain ways, that was, considered more feminine than what I was, supposed to have been acting like, um, especially once it happened a couple times in elementary and middle school, it wasn't so bad, but especially in high school, we're talking about, like, as bad as, like, getting beat up and, being left in the park like a bloody pulp, sorta bad, you know?
Yeah, so you were like physically assaulted.
Yeah, yeah. And,
I'm sorry that
uh
happened to you.
me too, but, um, but it's, in those sorts of situations, like, my mother started becoming more aware, because I was living with her at the time, um, she became more aware that I was, acting and, different from my peers. Um, we still didn't really have the words for it or anything like that, but, she still tried to support me, but I started coming down with, such hard, like, depression at that point in time, because of everything that was going on, that I actually stopped showing up for school, like, entirely because I was, like, bedridden, like, I couldn't get out of bed. For, the depression, but also the fear of going back to school and getting beat up again.
Yeah, and that's something that I've come across a lot in talking to trans people over time is like the immense amount of social pressure. Like, even if you have supportive parents, it's the ostracization that happens with your peers, especially at school, and getting teased and bullied is one thing, but then like being like physically assaulted for your expression is terrible. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Like I think it's very reasonable that that sort of behavior would lead to depression and like a fear of going to school. And you had mentioned the media as well, and you said that the '90s and at the time, because I grew up in the '90s as well. I don't remember there being hardly any positive media portrayals of trans people or gender nonconforming people at all. Um, I remember essentially just being disparaged and kind of fearfully seeing these movies like in Ace Ventura or something like that, where trans people
I
are
was
being
gonna say
depicted.
Ace Ventura and, Mrs. Doubtfire, which is not the same thing, but, I remember liking those movies as a kid, but then, like, as I rewatched them as an adult, I was like, "Oh god, this is horrible."
Yeah. So I remember like at the time growing up, wrestling was also popular.
Yes.
And I remember The Rock during a lot of his promos. A lot of people don't remember this, but he would make references to calling people transvestites and that type of
Oh,
thing.
I don't remember that, but I never watched wrestling or anything, so
Yeah, I mean, I had several brothers, and my dad enjoyed it as well. But uh, I remember, those films and shows. It was very common. Jerry Springer as well. trans people are always sensationalized, or episodes were titled like very clearly misgendering people. But so
I would not
you're
doubt, like, my mother was a big fan of, like, Dr. Phil around this time, and, I'm pretty sure there's some crappy Dr. Phil episodes regarding this, so
yeah, Dr. Phil is terrible. Like, he's a charlatan or fraud on, a whole there's a whole aside for Dr. Phil. But so staying
yep,
focused here.
we could make a whole video on just on that.
Right. Oh, 100%. I mean, especially with his, recent bend. But let's keep walking through this. So
Yeah, yeah.
you have very few, like, did you find, let me ask you a different question. So
Uh-huh.
we know that there was not media that helped you. Was there media that you found comforting, or that you found that you could kind of connect to, even if it's not directly like trans media? Was it queer enough that you kind of felt like, well, there's all the Ace Venturas, etc. But then on the other hand, there's this other media that you enjoy that lets you kind of explore that. Did you find that?
Um, so, at least at around this time period, um, it wasn't necessarily like, any sort of, like, queer media specifically, but I found great, comfort in, like, movies or, MySpace was a thing at this time, which, a lot of queer people used to, like, decorate their pages and stuff, which was very comforting, but, like, in terms of, like, movies, I found comfort in, movies, TV shows with, like, strong women. I also found comfort in, the same sort of medias with, respectable men who were, like, what's the way to put it? Not misogynistic? So,
Yeah, they were like
um,
more of like protective figures, and like,
yes,
accepting as
protective,
opposed
supportive
to,
figures, like,
right.
they knew the woman could take care of themselves, but they wanted to be a part of and help, that sort of thing. Um, you know, um, I think, I can't remember if this show was going on around this time or not still, but, Buffy the Vampire Slayer for me was really strong for me.
Yeah, I remember Buffy and Xena. And
Yeah, Xena as well, yeah.
yeah, I liked, I connected a lot with like sci-fi and science fiction. I connected a lot with like the more monstrous types of characters, or the kind of the androids and robots and that type of thing, because I could see myself as kind of the outsider in those situations. Um,
Mhm.
and I remember reading Animorph books. Like, Animorphs
Oh, yeah, I
was
loved
was not.
Animorphs.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's not a queer book series, but it is a queer book. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's that they've
the
all got like,
parallels are pretty strong, yeah.
right. They've all got like a secret power, and you can't tell anyone because they could be one of the orcs. I kind of felt the same way of like, you can't tell anybody about this because they might be, a transphobe or homophobe or something. And so I'm glad that you found, some media, and I think that that is important for people that especially might be feeling isolated or lonely. Uh, what about relationships? Did you have kind of any like early relationships during this time? And if so, did any of those people, were they aware of what was going on with you?
Are we talking like semi-romantic or
I
something like that,
whatever,
or
you know.
friendships?
Yeah, if they're like a close friend, if you had any like romantic relations, like, were there people that were close to you that did know and were supportive?
Um, so outside of a couple like high school friends, and I never told them about like my desire to like, be full on girl or whatever. But they, they saw how I dressed. They saw, like my long hair and stuff, and I ended up having a couple friends. Um, a couple of those friends saved me from a couple beatings, especially in high school. Because I happened to have a couple, pretty popular high school friends. as friends. You know what I mean? Um, so the bullies would know that like if you know I told them like, hey, this happened, and then there would be some social consequences for that. Most of them didn't care, but some of them did. So that was sort of protective in a way. So I had a couple pretty good friends in high school. Um, but they didn't know like my truest, like deepest feelings about the subject.
Yeah.
Um, this isn't necessarily a trans thing per se, but like I remember making like a yarn tail that I would like attach to the back belt loop of my jeans, and I would go to school with that on.
Oh, like a like a furry tail or something?
Yeah, sort of. It wasn't like a furry thing. I just thought it was cute.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
that's just where I happened to attach it, which kind of looked like a tail, which I thought was kind of cool. But
yeah.
you can imagine how much I got bullied for that thing. But
I mean, I was I didn't come out as a furry until after I was out of school, but I can imagine if people saw similar things, how they would have reacted back then, before before there was kind of like social media to record people doing things they shouldn't be doing.
yeah,
But
oh yeah, yeah. Actually, that's a good point too, because like keep in mind, like we're talking about like this is the age of like flip phones, where like not every phone has like a fucking camera or video recorder still. So like imagine all the shit that's going on when there's like no direct evidence that
right.
that can hold you to your consequences.
Well, and that was the other thing is a lot of times people say that being trans is like a social contagion or something, but like in the time period that we grew up, I mean, at least for me, I don't know if it was the same for you. I was in Alabama. There were not trans people that I could like go and click on a video and go and watch or something. Like the media depictions were either, depicting trans people as like, mentally ill villains, or it was showing us as like victims of terrible crimes, and then the characters in the like movie or show would still like make jokes about our corpses or mock our bodies or something like that. That was the only
Yeah,
representation I saw of trans people growing up.
yeah, especially like at least for me, like I can't remember exactly how old you are, but I'm especially for me, like even through like I was born in '89, which makes me 36, so like the tail end of '89, but so I grew up mostly in '90s, 2000. There just wasn't very positive media of trans people like at all. Outside of especially like in the 2000s where the internet it was more established. You would find some places here and there, but even those places weren't necessarily safe, right? So
Yeah, a lot of times the internet was more of like, as far as like communities online, was like message boards and muck boards and that type of thing. I'm almost I'll be 40 in a few months. So I grew up in the
oh yeah, so we're really close in age. So
yeah, my memories are kind of start in the early 90s. But I was also in Alabama, so definitely wasn't,
mm,
like Alabama's a little bit further behind, I would say, some of our sister
yeah,
states.
yeah, yeah.
But
I'm it's funny that you bring up Alabama, because and this is semi-relevant, I promise. So I moved in with my dad. I think I was 13. And he was living in Alabama at the time, which is a horrible state to be in if you're LGBT.
oh
um,
yeah,
especially one who's pretty out about like how they dress and stuff. But that being said, I got beat up a bit there. The middle school I went to was horrible, and then we moved right as I was going into high school, and my parents, well, my dad and my stepmother, decided to move us to Georgia. Also, not a great state to be in for LGBT. Um, but I remember uh, wanting to try out for the soccer team, and they didn't have they had just barely enough players to like fill their main team, and then a second string. Um, and it was so weird, but also oddly affirming. They didn't want to put me on the mainstream team, but they put me on the girls' team,
Nice.
which
So
was which was sort of cool. It wasn't like I couldn't play or whatever, but they just put me on the girls' team because they had nowhere else to put me, and I was like, "Oh, cool, I'm cool with that."
yeah,
So,
you said that moving in with your dad and stepmom. So it sounds like your parents
mm.
were separated.
Oh yeah, my mother and father were separated before I was born, so I've never lived with my mother or father
Okay, and you said that
as a family. So,
yeah, he lived in Alabama and then moved y'all to Georgia, and you moved in when you were 13. Was he as accepting as your mom was, or did was he aware of any kind of
uh,
gender issues?
so a lot of the times I kind of hid it from him a little bit. I would kind of like nudge at it a little bit. But for the most part, I would. He was the one I was a little bit more terrified to like express myself around a little bit more.
And
Mostly because I didn't know like how he would react. You know, he's like, you know, pretty. He's in the army. Pretty buff dude. Uh, all the things that I'd be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't talk about this around him necessarily.
yeah, and he's like choosing to live in Alabama, so it's like, you know, I'm guessing. Were you aware of his politics? Would you say he was probably more conservative, or did you have a feeling at the
Uh,
time that he was like progressive?
so at the time, I was fairly apolitical. I just didn't know enough, and I didn't have an opinion. But that being said, I also didn't know like what his particular positions were. I still don't really know what his positions were for the time, but
Yeah, and
either way, I was like, this is my father. He perceives me as, his son, and that was enough to just scare me into like not really talking about it. You know?
oh yeah, no, definitely. And that, it can be a frightening thing when you're not sure where you stand with a parent. Like that can be very distressing. It ends up being
Like,
a problem where like I thought I had friends that were progressive at one point in time. I came out to some
oh
of
yeah,
them and I got severe backlash and they ended
oh
up
yeah.
being, very abusive toward me. So that was just from friends. I can't, you know, um, eh, it's hard for people to understand how frightening it is to live with a parent who you're not sure if they're supportive or not.
Yeah, and just to give context to that particular situation is my father uh lived in Colorado with us, uh like not with us, but in the same state. But he decided he wanted to go east at some point, and I remember you know, I remember being scared, but it's still my father. And but I was only like 6 years old or something, but I was like, I don't want you to leave. I don't want you to leave. Where are you going? And I remember like this was one of the first times I remember seeing my father cry because I didn't want him to leave, you know?
Yeah. Oh, and
Um, and then no, 7 years later I move in with him because the situation at home has gotten so volatile. Um,
and that was from
like
the bullying and kind of feeling isolated and stuff from
uh
your.
part part of it was the bullying, uh, for sure, in terms of like my middle school life. But part of it was also my mother had married a shithead.
I'm sorry.
and he was he was just being an he was an asshole to me and my sister like the entire time. And only like he favored his own biological child, which is my stepbrother. So very very clearly, even from a young age, I was able to see that. I decided to give something else a shot, which ended up not being a great choice, but
Yeah, it sounds like you're in a kind of a tough situation there. Um,
yeah, it had nothing to do with the trans issue, but just for clarification.
yeah. So you move in with your dad, and now we're talking like late teens at this point, right?
Uh, so we're talking about my early teens at this point. At this particular school in Georgia, I was punched in the back of the head at the school at least twice that I remember.
And that was like just people randomly like assaulting you, or is this kind of like a pattern of bullying that you continue to endure?
It's just the continued pattern. However, I'm in at this point I'm in the South, and they don't appreciate the way I act and look. So,
Yeah, so you're essentially a target just for kind of expressing
mm,
yourself. And you weren't even openly out, right? Like you were just kind of, you had just
no,
gender nonconforming
I just dress.
expression.
Yeah, I just dressed more gender non-conforming, maybe a little feminine at times. But past that, like for example, I remember coach. I remember coach. I was in the. Remember, this is Georgia, so I was in the boys room, or the boys gym. But coach told us to like put the basketballs up. Session is done. Some dude that I really didn't like continued to just play around and mess around. I was like, hey, dude, coach like told us to put the basketballs away. And I go and get in line to like go out into the hallway. And he gets behind me and literally sucker punches me in the back of the head.
That's terrible. And that's,
Yeah,
obviously, that. So you are being like punished for not even being like openly trans or anything. Like just for being gender
yeah,
nonconforming, you're still facing violence.
mm, yeah,
And I feel like this is something that is missed a lot of times in our stories is like this sheer amount of pushback that we'll often get where there's this kind of gender policing going on where even if you're not openly trans, like just being feminine enough when they think that you ought have a masculine expression is enough to get targeted. Well,
yeah, definitely. I mean, this might be a little controversial, maybe, but you know, this country traditionally is not very kind to women. I'll put it that way. So,
yeah, no, you can say that as loud as you want to. I don't think it's controversial at all. Like, um, that's an entire, like you said, that'd be a whole episode by itself. Like we can definitely talk
oh yeah,
feminism and the way that like feminine people are just abused by this society, at least in America, especially Alabama and the South and Georgia. But going
oh yeah,
to
yeah.
let's talk a little bit later now. So you
Sure.
arrive in Georgia, you're still facing bullying, and you like you grow up a little bit older. What were some of your experiences that you would say you remember from being like a late teen to early adult? Um, like, were you still
Yeah,
figuring yourself out? Had you started to kind of consolidate that you were trans? Like, what was going on during that time?
yeah. So late teen. Okay, so here's the way we're gonna go with this. So late teen to like early adult. So I move late teen. I moved back to my mother's place. Also a terrible idea because she married a drunkard. So that was great. My depression continues to spiral. That's when I like stopped going to like school consistently because I'm just terrified every fucking day. And and I meet someone online and decide to move in with him. After 18, of course. Um um but we I move out to Texas to be with him, and I still don't have the words to express like what I'm feeling necessarily. I don't even know what's going on necessarily. But I move out with him, and this is the weird part, and I think I mentioned it to you before briefly. But he starts showing me RuPaul's Drag Race, right? And I'm fascinated and interested, and I want to watch the show and see like what's going on. Like it's competition show, which I'm usually not into. But I'm interested enough. But that's when I'm the age 22, we get into a discussion, and that's the first time because we're talking about an episode, but that's the first time he uh he says the word transgender, and I'm like, wait, what does transgender mean? And then he explains it to me, and I literally look like right into his eyes, and I'm like, that's what I've been feeling my entire life. Like, I can't believe you explained what I've been feeling this entire time, and I didn't know there was a word for it, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's
And I was like, "What the fuck?"
that had to be like a kind of a shocking realization where it's like there's been this kind of disquiet your entire life and you're not sure how to express it or what's going on. Then all of a sudden you see like RuPaul's Drag Race where like clearly these people are in a competition and are looking fabulous and stuff and it's like wait a minute,
Yeah,
this is making me feel a certain kind of way until
yeah,
you find out what a trans person is, which is like I just I want to just put it out there. Being transgender is not the same as drag, of course, but I
yes,
could
of
see
course not.
where right, but I could see where like the initial kind of connections of like seeing masculine people all of a sudden presenting femme and like realizing that this is something that like people even can do, like could
Yeah,
start
'cause I
there to like connect with experiences that you were internally feeling.
yeah, 'cause I think the exact, not the exact, but paraphrased, wording was like, because I was looking at these, drag queens, and I was like, "I wish I could just feel like that all the time." Because I felt open enough to talk to him about it, of course. And he was like, "What, like a transgender?" And I was like, "What's a transgender?" And then he explained it to me, and I was like,
Yeah, it's
like,
like
"What? There's a word for that? God damn it."
yeah, it's like wait, you can even do that? Like that's you don't have to live like I used to think that like pretty much everyone that was a boy, I thought like everyone that is living that way despises being like that. Like everyone wants to be a woman and like that's just what people that's how people are, but they're just pretending that they enjoy this masculine stuff. Like that's internally how like I thought about it at the time, which is just absurd now. But
Right, right.
internally that was kind of a way that we reconciled this to be like, well, it's just the fact that everyone hates being a boy. They're just pretending to like this. But it's interesting that that's kind of like how this came about for you. So
Yeah,
was
it was super strange. It was like, in my mind, I was like, "How come no one, like, through my 22 years of life so far has never mentioned this word or this idea to me, like, at all?" Considering, like, what I was going through my entire life.
well,
I
I
was
mean,
like, no one, my parents never thought to bring up, like, transgender or, even some friends, or, like, it was just baffling to me. I was like, "I'm, like, an adult now, like, and I felt this way for so long. Like, how come this was never expressed to me, like, until now, when I moved to Texas of all places?" So,
yeah, but I would wonder like how many people that you grew up with had the language for it or understood conceptually like really what being transgender was either. Because like I
yeah, I
found
mean,
that
there's no telling really, but
yeah, like well, I mean you didn't know growing up. I didn't know. Like I didn't have that information growing up.
yeah.
I'd only seen it depicted in film and stuff like that, and it seems sensationalized. And this is just like a plot for a movie or whatever. This isn't like how people actually live.
Yeah, for the audience, keep in mind, the internet is still semi-new at this point. It's like
I mean, yeah, it's sad, but uh, definitely old enough that social media was like barely a thing at the time. Um,
yeah, I think Facebook was just getting started around this time, really,
what? So
if I remember.
your boyfriend at the time, like when y'all had
Mhm.
that conversation, did he end up being supportive of that, or was he kind of like was he
So,
ambivalent?
so he was um so he was supportive in the sense that, like, he's gay, right? And I have the parts that he wants, right? And but I started talking to him about it more and more, and it started becoming a little bit more of a point of contention, because I expressed my want for surgery because that's something that I wanted for a long time. I didn't know it was even an option. um, actually, he even said to me, just I think it was a couple of years ago at this point, but we don't keep up with each other very much anymore either. But he said, "You're the only girl that I've ever, you know, felt like attracted towards," which I found very flattering. Uh, it was like, okay,
Yeah, it just ends up
you
being
know,
one of those things where there's like a division of like sexuality versus like gender identity, and I think this is
yeah,
another one of the subjects that come up a lot when people are like, oh, but if a straight man is with a trans woman, what does that make him type of
mhm,
thing? And it's like, well, it makes him straight. Like, if you ask me, but that's because I would separate people's sexuality and sexual preferences and like genital preferences from their gender preferences. Like,
mhm,
usually, if someone is gay, they typically are attracted to like masculinity and that sort of thing. But if they, are attracted to the parts, then I'm just like, well, like that's more of like for me, I would almost imagine that as more of like, almost like a kink type of thing. Like they're really attracted to specific genitals or whatever, which no shame, at all.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's how I would more think of it as far as like being like a gay or straight or something like that. But everyone is going to have their own conceptions of that might be a little bit different. I just find it a little silly a lot of times when people start questioning their sexuality just because they're like attracted to like a trans woman.
yeah.
But
Like, I think, touching on that a little bit, I think, it's like if someone has like a genital preference, like, they're weirded out or like not comfortable or whatever, like, you do you. It's a free country. Like,
mostly
you
free.
you don't have to interact with whatever genitals you don't want to interact with. Fine, whatever. Um, if you're attracted to a girl and she happens to have the wrong parts for you, that's fine. Just bring it up and like, hey, this isn't gonna work, right? That's all you have to do.
Yeah, and no, I
And
agree.
yeah, so
Well,
like that's literally all you have to do. And just be like, okay, we'll go our separate ways. Um, nice to meet you. It's not gonna work. Bye bye. You know?
yeah, and but it can also be, it's good to have open communication because they might be okay like with doing specific things. They just don't want
Mm,
to. They might not want to, interact with specific, parts. And
mhm.
I've been in situations like that before where I had a partner that wasn't comfortable with certain things, so we wouldn't do certain types of things, and that's fine. Like it's you know
Yeah,
if something is a deal breaker, it's a deal breaker, and no one should
You
be
can pull up
forced
and
to
support me.
interact with somebody and sexually if they don't want to. Like that's just I
exactly.
think that should be that should be a given. But I've heard people say, oh well, trans women want to force lesbians to enjoy penises, and I'm like, no, we don't. That's
No,
not
no,
true.
no trans woman that I've ever met wants to do that.
Right, exactly. And I've met some lesbians that are like perfectly fine with penises, and some lesbians that like that's a deal breaker for them. And
Yeah,
that's again going to be like case by case. And when they say like, oh, but if they're a lesbian, they by default aren't going to like a penis. It's like, no, if they're a lesbian, they don't want a penis attached to a man. That doesn't mean that you know they're not going to enjoy it if it's a non-binary person or a trans person like someone with a penis. they typically just are not attracted to masculinity. However,
Sure.
I guess I'm going to ask you, and this might be uncomfortable. You can, pass on it if you want to. What are your
Sure.
experiences like to your own sexuality? Like, how would you identify, and does it relate to your gender for you?
Oh, so I'm usually pretty open about my sexuality actually. I'm a I would describe myself as a demi-pan. For those who do not know, what that means is I don't give a fuck about whatever genitals you have. I don't care about like your sexuality or my sexuality for that matter. Actually typically care about like what your personality type is. And past that we can negotiate. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And
okay.
would you describe yourself as more monogamous or like polyamorous?
So I'm polyamorous. Um that being said, pretty strict with my current partners. We make sure we're in communication and make sure that if I want to add a new partner to for lack of a better word, don't take this like literally, but to my tally, I make sure with my current and other partners that this is okay and that they get to talk to them, meet them in some way, if it's online or in person, and be like, okay, we're okay with this. Past that, I don't add people into my poly relationships.
And would you say it's like maybe easier, about the same, or more difficult, like being in polyamorous relationships versus monogamous relationships?
Oh god, that's a good question. Uh, I think I don't know. I think it's harder and easier, depending on the perspective you take on it. Like a monogamous relationship, like you're just like focused on one person, figuring out their wants and needs, and doing that. Obviously, poly relationship, you're figuring out multiple people's interests and stuff. Um, that being said, um, in a monogamous relationship, one person is trying to meet all of your needs all at one time that they may not be able to meet, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and you have
uh, in a poly relationship, maybe one person can't meet your needs, but another person can. As long as there's communication and consent, I don't see a problem with that. So
yeah, and you have the additional like support.
yeah, and you have additional support if something goes on, of course.
Yeah, it's going to sound like we're bouncing around a little bit for a second. It's just
Yeah, a
that
little
we've
bit.
Yeah, well, we've been going on for like almost an hour, and I want to make sure that we're able to kind of like touch on multiple subjects to kind of like round this out as much as possible. So
Yeah,
let's
we
backtrack for
haven't
one
even gotten
second.
into the interesting part yet, for me anyway.
What would that be?
Oh, when I started transitioning.
So, all right, let's get to that in one second. I just want to like kind of
Sure.
like close out the topic of education that we were talking about before, because we were talking about education, and then you were mentioning that you had moved to Texas with a boyfriend. Did you, and
Mhm.
again, whatever you want to share, but did you finish high school? And if you did you go to college?
So I didn't finish high school, because my depression was so bad. That being said, I did opt to get my GED, which I scored very well on.
And did
I
you
scored
pursue,
very I scored very well on my GED. I aced everything. No, I actually did pretty good on my GED test.
yeah, all the best scores?
Yeah, all the best scores. Particularly math, actually, and science, were my highest scores. So, um, that being said, I did pursue some college that I ended up not being able to pay for, not being able to attend uh, consistently. So I had to drop out because I had to. I got forced into a position where I had to either pay rent or go to school full time, and I couldn't justify going to school, unfortunately, so I had to work full time. So I haven't pursued further college education so far, but yeah, it's just the situation I was faced with.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. In America, college is
Mm.
exceptionally expensive, and if you're trying
Oh
to like
yeah,
pay your
way expensive,
bills, right? Yeah, I've heard a similar
and
story quite a bit.
yeah, I couldn't justify uh working 40 hours a week, going to school 40 hours a week, and then plus all the other things. Like it was just too much for me, especially coming off of you know, like really, really hard depression and unmedicated diagnoses, and yeah, it was just too much. So I decided to just focus on work.
All right, so you focus on work. You ended up moving in with a boyfriend. Let's go into your like early adulthood to your when you realize that you're trans. So you finally have a word for this.
Yes.
You're watching RuPaul's drag show. Um,
Mhm.
what about your early transition? Like, when did you decide to pursue HRT and you know, like follow that journey, or did you do social transitioning? Like, what happened with that?
Yeah. I mean, so far, I've already shown myself to be like a little bit more like effeminate, typically. I just say typically because there's certain times where that particular situation lapsed a little bit. But like typically you know, presented feminine. Um, that being said, after the incident in Texas, so me and him eventually, unfortunately, broke up. But I went home back to Colorado and was still exploring, still figuring things out. I spent a lot of times at that point, I had come out to my father and my mother. I was like, hey, like I figured out this word that I've been trying to figure out through my entire life of what it was, and this is what it was. I also I also came out to initially I came out to my father as gay. But that also wasn't the right word. That was a whole another separate process.
Yeah, how did they react to that initially?
So my mother and my father didn't care. Not in the sense that they just didn't care. That they were like supportive of me, right? Um,
Yeah,
it was actually really funny. When I talked to my father and told him that I was LGBT slash gay, which I still didn't have the full words for at the time. He told his wife, my stepmother at the time, that hey, one of our children is gay, and I'm gonna censor his name. I'm gonna say a different name, but she was like, no, not David, and then my father was like, nope, wrong, it's Kitnel,
yeah, not that kid. It's kind of
not
funny
that
though
kid.
that they guessed the one of the other kids first. It's like, what? Have you even been paying
Which
attention?
is yeah, yeah. Have you been paying attention to like how I dress, how I act? Like fuck. Anyway, it was funny either way because I was like, oh, they pegged my stepbrother as gay. That's funny. Anyway,
Well,
um,
did you like choose a new name to go by? Did you keep your same name? Did you like how was your initial like stages there?
yeah. So right after that, I was 23 at the time. I decided I decided that it's time to like start pursuing some sort of like change or treatment or whatever. So I for a time, since my hair was short at this particular point in time, I started wearing some wigs. I started like practicing with makeup. with the help of my sister, I I started you know, I was still protecting myself, at this point in time, since I'm an adult, I was uh performing as masculine, just to be safe. But I got a job as a delivery driver, and while I was driving my car around to deliver packages, I was practicing my feminine voice. Like, I was like hardcore practicing to the point that my throat hurt every night.
Yeah, so you were able
Like,
to
I was like,
get some practice
yeah,
in singing and just talking in the car by yourself.
yeah, yeah. So it started as just me singing in the car, just trying to pitch and whatever. I was trying to just match the pitch of the vocals on the car, like listening to like Evanescence or any other music that I liked. I was just like trying to raise my pitch and figure out like, am I sounding like authentic? Am I sounding like robotic? Like it was a long process.
And
And then mhm.
did you start taking, HRT during this time as well? Like, did you start on?
No, no, I was still unaware of this option. And so part of it I was unaware of. I didn't know that medication or even surgery was still like the options or whatever. I was still doing like lots of research because like I was like, oh crap, I just figure out this thing that I am, and I'm like, well,
Yeah, getting overwhelmed.
yeah. But the one of the first things I was determined to do, because I knew it was a social transition thing, was, well, I mean, my hair was already starting to grow long again. Like, well, that's an easy change. Just take some time. One thing I can do is like change my voice. So,
Yeah,
uh,
and
and I spent like probably thousands of hours trying to do this. So
yeah, it definitely I can tell that you've put a lot of work into it. And I
I was very determined.
yeah, I would say it went pretty well. Like, I think you sound
Oh,
great.
thank you.
You sound fine. Did you pick a new name, or were you still going by a dead name for a little while there?
Yeah. So while I was trying to like make some changes, I actually initially took the name of Robin, and there's a very specific reason for that. um, I I took the name of Robin specifically because Robin Williams had died at that time,
And it was kind
and
of like,
for me, like he had been a part of like my life and childhood and stuff, and Robin is pretty ambiguous and stuff. Like it just made sense to me at the time to be like, yo, just call me Robin, right?
because it's it's like kind of gender neutral.
Yeah, it was pretty gender neutral. One of my favorite actors and comedians had died, and I decided to take that name for a while. So
Well, let's fast forward a little bit. So you get into
sure.
your transition, right? Like, are you? I'm guessing you are, you because you said you didn't know back then, but currently, like, you're are you medically transitioning? Are you taking HRT and such?
Yeah. So fast forward a bit, and into the rest of my life or whatever happens. So once once I hit 30, my age 30, um, I decided and had the means of saying like, I want to start medically transitioning. So I, I go to a therapist, psychiatrist, my medical doctor, and tell them everything that I'm feeling, everything that's going on, and being like, hey, um, and I've done like plenty of research on it on my own at this point, and been like, hey, can I get on estrogen? Can I get on Spiro? Can I get on progesterone? Like all these things, right? Because it's like it's about time.
Was your
I'm 30 years old. Um, I'm past my particular particular prime of like these medications, like doing the things I really want them to do. But something is better than nothing, you know?
I mean, it's never too late to transition, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I
No,
mean,
for sure.
like I didn't transition until like I was in my 30s as well, and I mean,
Oh, fair, yeah.
it's been I definitely wish I'd known about it earlier. But
Me too.
what was did you so you said that you did have to go talk to like a psychiatrist and stuff, like, so there was like a
Mhm.
process that you had to follow through.
Of
um
course.
would you say that getting HRT or having access to it, did you find it to be like easy, or did you find it to be a little bit more difficult, just either based in the area of the country you're on, or the fact that there's so much gatekeeping around it?
Yeah. So at the time I was requesting HRT, I was in Colorado, which is typically a more left wing state, at least in the cities and stuff. Um, I found it fairly easy to, and I have past therapists vouching for me and stuff. I didn't mention that before, but I did see some therapists. But it was pretty easy for them to like figure out like, oh yeah, this is like a consistent thing that's been going on through her entire life, right? Um, so so I was able to talk to a therapist. I was able to find a psychiatrist, and I was able to at the time go through Planned Parenthood and consent through their onboarding process of like, yes, I want these medical drugs. Yes, they're gonna have to monitor me, blah 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 blah, you know. And so I was finally at the age of 30 able to start these drugs
And
um to uh to to start like bringing my brain back into my body a little bit, if that makes sense.
yeah, to better align your body with your
Yeah.
mind, for sure. And like when you went through the initial transition process, your
Mhm,
peers before were not accepting at school and stuff like that. Um,
mhm.
and then you were working as a delivery driver. Did you pick up a job where you had coworkers that you worked beside? And if so, how did they treat you?
Oh, so oh, let's see here. Okay. So at the time, so I started drugs at 30. But at the age of 26, um, I was uh I was working at a pizza place in Denver, and one night I took my boss because he was working that night. I was like, hey, and he's a conservative, by the way, just so you know. Um, I was like, hey, like I've been having a lot of issues, like and this is the way I want to like present, and this is the way I want to be treated, blah 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 blah. And I outright told him I'm a trans individual, and he understood. He acknowledged what I said, but didn't affirm me. The next day, when I work again, I show up. I show up with like long hair, makeup on, bra on, and he initially like freaked out. Not necessarily because I was who I was. From what I understand, is he was more worried that like if I go out and start like delivering and stuff like that, that I'd be in trouble. And he told me like, oh, like I can't like control like what a customer is gonna do, but I can control what the people in the store are gonna do, right? And I was like, I think I'll be fine. Keep in mind, I had done years of voice training at this time as well, you know. So But I go out, I do my first delivery, and apparently during this time, on my first delivery, people in the store are asking who I am, like who's the new girl, and like, wait, when did she start and stuff like that. I was like, and then I get back, and my boss was like, I think you're gonna be okay. And this is
Yeah.
from a conservative guy at the time, right?
Well, I mean,
And
you
it was like weirdly confirming and uh like it was just weird. It was just weird to experience because like people when I got back, like people that I had already been working with for like a month or two were asking who I was. So I was like, oh, do I like give off the appearance of someone else all of a sudden? Like what's going on?
right. It's like you were, you know,
I was like, I was
they
incognito, James Bond.
yeah, they were like just shocked, like, uh, but no, I'm
Yeah,
glad that
and a couple of the people that I really trusted at that place, I told them I was like, "Hey, this is my name before. This is who I am," and they were like super cool with it. So,
yeah, I'm glad that that was a positive experience, and
oh yeah,
and that
it was super affirming.
right, I bet, because it's like when you're initially presenting as yourself, you don't know how people are going to react. So it's good that
Yeah,
they were accepting.
yeah.
I
I
guess.
was I had expressed to a close friend of mine at the time the night before of like, this is driving me crazy, like not presenting myself like as who I am, since I've been hiding it for so long. And he was like, "Just go for it. See what happens." And, I was like, "You're right." So I got all dressed up and and did that, and that's what happened. I was like, "Oh, so this actually wasn't, like, as scary or as threatening as I thought it might be given my previous experience," you know?
Right, like especially if you've had a history of like being assaulted and stuff. It's like
Yeah,
it shouldn't be that big of a deal just to have a different gender presentation. But
yeah.
for a
It
lot of
should be, yeah.
people, yeah, no, and I think that's what a lot of us that would be called, trans rights activists, that's all that we're saying is that it should be fine for you to present as yourself instead of having to play like a role that society has projected on you, especially if they've even tried to like violently enforce it on you.
Yeah, for sure. Um,
So,
it's just, it's just been wild to me. Like, there's been a lot of things to, like, go through and like figure things out and figure when you're safe or not safe or like it you know it's a weird like a hypercube of bullshit.
yeah, you have to start like learning all of the things like parking close, when you go shopping, especially if it's going to be at night, so that you're not walking across the parking lot alone. Like it's all the other things that you have to learn along with
Yeah,
your presentation. But uh, moving to more like current times, I guess I just want to ask questions kind of more broadly. That way,
sure.
I don't keep you too long because it's going on almost an hour and a
Yeah,
half.
yeah,
Um, what would you say? Like, let's just ask like general questions. What would you say is your overall like experience as a trans person? Um, would you say like how do you feel at this current moment, like in time?
sure. I think my overall experience has been mixed and confusing and it- filled with lots of struggles, filled with lots of like highs and downs. At the moment, um, everyone at my current job, excuse me, doesn't even know that I'm trans. Because I usually just don't disclose that information. Because there's no need to. So I'm treated the way that I want to be treated anyway. Um, I think I personally think that I'm scared of like where the government is going to go with this and try to further escalate tensions. Uh,
Yeah, so
I don't know.
you find it easier like not to disclose that you're trans openly,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
directly
There's
because well, you fear like essentially like reprisal or retribution from your peers.
um. So most of my peers at work, most of them, not all of them, I would feel particularly okay of disclosing that I'm trans to them. That being said, like I still fear for my overall safety, so I just don't. I think
Yeah,
it
it
would
makes
be
sense.
overall just detrimental to do so, especially if you know the wrong person like hears this or gets the idea that they can further bully me or even worse considering the state of the government right now like actually like punitively punish me.
Yeah, and we've seen cases of like coworkers essentially like harassing trans women about what restrooms they use, or
Mhm.
businesses trying to say like, that a trans employee like must use like a bathroom that like she doesn't belong in. And then we've also seen cases of like nurses trying to, sue a hospital claiming that they were sexually harassed by having to be around a trans person. Like,
Yeah, it's frustrating.
so like obviously would you say it would have helped, would your life, do you think, have been better if you had known about trans people and what being trans was like earlier in your life?
um so I think at the moment I'm inclined to think that my positions on trans people and you know the current political climate probably wouldn't have changed, but I bet. um but I think at least in terms of my like personal transition and having puberty blockers or what have you, other medical interventions earlier would have helped. But politically, it wouldn't have helped at all, obviously.
Yeah, what would you say is like, um I guess, what has been the most affirming thing that you've experienced? If there's anything that has stood out for you, has there been anything, any one moment that you were like, you felt gender euphoria?
Yeah. Um, for me, I think and I know it's not the same for other trans people and stuff, but for me, it's just, and I hate using this language and stuff. It's just kind of true. I haven't really in my public life been like clocked as like a trans person, like at all. Even though that like just literally shouldn't matter, but and in our current like environment, like people think about it, people try to notice like falsely about it, and but I'm personally I'm just gratified that I've done what I can to like keep myself like quiet.
Yeah.
And
So
that's a shitty thing to say, to be honest.
well, I understand where you're coming from a point of safety, right? But
Yeah.
then within like, queer communities and stuff, we have a term like assimilation, right? And
Hmm.
that's kind of where you essentially, express yourself and perform in a way that conforms to like cis like heteronormativity. And
Hmm.
at this current injunction, I don't think I can blame trans people for not wanting to be like out and loud. They want to just kind of exist, and the
Yeah.
fear of reprisal from the government, I think, is very obvious just in the fact that like it's part of our safety as a community and trans people to be able to just go and exist like at work, because I feel like
Yeah.
you're not the type of person, like, you're not going out there trying to push trans identity onto other people, and at the same time you're just trying to exist, like going to work, living your life in general without facing the type of violence and persecution that you have before. That's what I take more from your story than anything else.
Yeah. I just most of the time I just want to be treated like a normal human being who has like wants and needs and in this country, their opinion, like I just want to have the same rights as everyone else.
Yeah,
That's it.
if there was like any policy that, like, let's say you could snap your fingers and this becomes the law of the
Oh,
land, was there any policy specifically that you can think of right now that you wish that trans people like had access to, that was passed for trans people?
Uh, well, technically we still have a protected profile, but the current administration is not going to follow that, of course. Um, that's a good question. I think I have to think about that more.
Okay.
I think um, I don't even think it's a policy like issue necessarily. Like I think I wish that more people would just realize that we're just regular human beings like themselves. We just live our lives differently. I think that's what I wish I really could change.
Are there any and let's talk about, like, are there,
Mm.
what is the most harmful aspect, like, if you had to pick, what are the most harmful things to, like, trans community, LGBT people in general, uh what would you think along those lines?
What's the most harmful?
Like, what comes to
Um,
my mind would be like, Project 2025. It would be like
well, of course,
legislative
yeah.
attacks against us. Like, if I had to just give examples, like, does anything stick out to you as like particularly harmful or dangerous?
Yeah, I mean, like 2025 is like a pretty big like like fuck you to like everything that's like not what they want, right? Including LGBT people. I'm trying to think of something more specific, but
I guess I'll
isn't isn't didn't some country like just ban like LGBTQ like people basically?
oh, I'd have to go
Like
and look. There's like 76 countries where like being
yeah,
LGBT is criminalized. I remember
that's
like
fair.
the they like kill the gays law in Uganda, and that type
Yeah,
of thing. But I guess I just want to open this last section up to just a
sure.
general conversation, and just kind of like let
Yeah.
you get any thoughts you have, or anything that like you really want to make sure is included, or that you get out before we kind of move toward like closing out.
Yeah, I think I mean the only thing I really have to say is like
Not just simply that.
baby. Yeah, the only thing I really have to say is I think that
Yes.
trans people should still if they're safe and able to still speak out like we're doing here. Um
I have like an
and
hour.
share their stories and obviously go and vote with your heart, go and vote with your conscience, like and try to treat people with respect. Remember the Constitution, blah 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 blah. Like I don't think I really have it much else to say other than you know, we're we're just people like like you.
Yeah,
We're just people. Like
I
we wanna like have our rights and get the medications that we need and to work like anyone else.
right. I think trans people deserve access to like healthcare and to live like full
Yes.
lives full of like love. And at the same time, like you said, so I really struggle with this because when
Hmm.
I was working recently, I wasn't out to like my coworkers either, and only one
Hmm.
person ever asked me about it, and he was kind of approaching it from like a, hey, like I'm not really too sure how to ask this, and I don't want to be like rude and everything else. But everyone else just
Hmm.
treated me like a woman, like just like any other girl that was there. And like, so on one hand, being stealth, as they would call it, comes with benefits like that. You're often not harassed or targeted with anything other than like misogyny, or there's still struggles there,
Hmm.
but it's at the cost of being visible, so that the people that are growing up, like you and I grew up, wouldn't see someone and just know like that. Oh, that's a transgender person. Like they might just cross us on the street and just be like, they would pass us and think that we're women like anyone else without commentary. And part of that is very affirming, and it's very tempting to kind of just vanish. Um, with the only problem being that if you don't speak out, and that if we don't make ourselves visible and tell our stories and make things heard, then it becomes easier for government entities to start erasing our rights, and for people to have no reaction to it because they don't see us, because we are such a small population. They're like, well, I mean, like if they ban trans people from having access to the bathroom, like I don't know anyone who'd even be hurt by that. Like I don't even know a trans person. Like they might not think it's a big deal, but there's a reason why trans people often end up having like bladder damage, like throughout their life, because a lot of us
You're
will
absolutely by the
avoid
right.
going to use like public restrooms and that type of thing. And I just want to say, like, putting stories out there are is very important. Thank you for agreeing to do this interview. I know like some of the questions were probably uncomfortable, but I definitely enjoyed having you on, and I would, definitely be down to have other conversations in the future, or if you ever wanted to do a panel discussion or something, reacting to other content, maybe we could collaborate on something like that. But those are kind of like my final thoughts. Did you have anything else that you would like to add?
Personally, no. I agree with you. It's spot on. Like I think you summarized it really well.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. And hopefully, actually, I have one last question. Sorry.
Oh, sure. No
Um,
worries.
I would say, do you find yourself, other than the government and like the politics, like, are you happy with where you're at in life? Like, are you happy, transitioning? Like overall, do you feel like you are, better off living authentically to yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Um, Obviously, there's still some struggles, whether it be like legal paperwork or like issues at work with your boss where you have to give legal information or whatever. But overall, like I'm really happy where I'm at, and I wouldn't change it, other than maybe making it easier by going through it earlier in life,
Yeah,
which obviously I can't do. So
yeah. People ask me about regret as well, and that's my same answer. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. I wish I had had the
yeah,
information earlier on.
yeah, me too. But past that, I'm really happy with where I am right now. Um, it's still an ongoing process. Your body changes as you get older, blah 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 blah. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with where I am.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and ultimately, it's where you've gotten to despite everything else. But thank you for coming on and speaking with us. and I will talk to you later. Have a good day.
Awesome. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.